So, very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, and we're discussing the fantastic philosophy by Stuart Close. We have started directly with the chapter, The General Pathology of Homoeopathy, and it is the basic chapter where Stuart Close tried to explain the Hahnemann's concept in detail. So, the name given to the chapter, everyone looks towards the chapter that how homeopathy is related to the pathology and etc. But he has compared what allopathy considers the pathology and what homeopath considers the pathology. And this is too important to understand. From allopathic point of view, pathology is just a material pathology. It is divided into two types, the general pathology and special pathology. And again, they divided the special pathology into two types, the internal pathology, which is called to be a medical pathology, and the external one, which is dealt with the surgery, called as surgical pathology. But this is material aspect looking towards the tissue change or cellular change. Homeopathy goes beyond that. Homeopathy considers why this pathology is aroused, why this tissue change is there. Tissue change or cellular change is the end product. Why this end product has been developed? It definitely means it is because of some chronic diseases. And what is the cause behind the chronic diseases? Hahnemann have spent nearly about the 12 years of his life to go or to reach to find it out the cause of those chronic diseases. And that's why our pathology is related with the causes of chronic diseases, that is in the form of miasms. And that miasms are nothing but the pathologies which reflects ultimately at the end with the tissue change or cellular change. And that's why one must understand what exactly the pathology is there from homeopathic point of view, whether it is suric pathology, whether it is psychotic pathology, whether it is syphilitic pathology, or combinations of all those three miasms. That is what is the pathology of homeopathy. So yesterday we have discussed one more part. During Hahnemannian era, there was a Cuvier who was the zoologist, and there was a problem with the number of animals were known, but haphazard knowledge about those animals was there. Cuvier worked out, classified them into four different types, and that's why it was very easy to categorize those animals into four kingdoms: the vertebrates, the mollusks, the articulates, and the radiates. And then it was easy to understand, yes, this animal belongs to this group. Hahnemann was of the same era. There was one more person who classified the plant kingdom in the similar manner, was the Carl Linnaeus. So, considering their work, Hahnemann also considered there were number of diseases to which there are many names were given. But no one was knowing exactly the name of the how to classify them and in which category they belongs to. And that's why it was quite rather difficult. Hahnemann started categorizing those diseases into different types. The first variety with which he has categorized was the occupational diseases or drug diseases. And under the group of these occupational diseases or drug diseases, where he has considered all those disorders which are caused because of either because of external cause, because of some exciting cause, or they are either because of some drugs, and those diseases which develop because of effects of drugs, those he has categorized under one heading, because the line of treatment remains to be a very simple. You remove the cause, the disease will be vanished. For such disorder, there is no special treatment is required, and that's why those are the false, in general, they are the false chronic diseases or iatrogenic diseases, and those he has categorized under one heading. And then whatever remained, then he started searching out for them. We have finished with this first variety in last lecture, that the occupational diseases or drug diseases, and last paragraph in which he has mentioned this removed a large part of mass of phenomena from category of diseases and cleared the way for further new classifications remainder. So now we'll start with next paragraph where he starts. The next step consisted in the collecting into class all the phenomena known to be due to the due to those ancient, widespread, malignant scourges of mankind and the venereal diseases. Scourges म्हणजे दुःखाचं कारण. So there were prevalent since long time. The venereal diseases was the cause of the diseases. And it was ancient. It was earlier. It was there. Syphilis already recognized as the fundamental cause of large number of symptoms and as complicating factor in many diseases had been studied quite extensively. So there was one venereal disease which was known to the people was syphilis. And this syphilis itself was a chronic disease. What is syphilis? Syphilis is the sexually transmitted diseases which goes through or runs through the 4 phases. The primary syphilis, the secondary syphilis, the tertiary or latent syphilis, and quaternary syphilis. Out of this, the first variety, that primary syphilis, when appears, it appears on the external most layer. It is a single, painless, hard ulcer, either on male or female genitalia, caused because of Treponema pallidum, associated with bilateral horizontal group of inguinal lymphadenopathy, is the primary syphilis. So this primary syphilis is the external most manifestation of the syphilis disease. But what do we do? When it is external, when it is painless, still we try to apply some local treatment over there. During Hahnemannian time, mercury was the treatment for, mercurial preparation was the treatment for those ulcers. So people used to apply the mercurial preparations. That's why in our Materia Medica, there is one sentence, bad effects of mercury. This is what is bad effects of mercury. They used to apply the mercurial ointments over there, because of which that ulcers disappears. People considers it has been cured. It was not cured. It was removed from the surface, enters inside, remains hidden for some time. And when it used to reappear, at that time, it comes along with these primary symptoms. So it again comes with the primary symptoms along with the secondary symptoms. So earlier it was purely syphilis in the form of primary chancre. That ulcer is called as primary chancre, single painless hard ulcer. So primary chancre associated with bilateral horizontal group of inguinal lymphadenopathy, those were primary symptoms. Those also comes along with, there is maculopapular rash, specifically on the skin surfaces at the buccal cavity, a typical psoric manifestation. And at the same time, there is one more entity which happens to be there, one more manifestation which happens to be there is condylomata lata, a purely psychotic manifestation. So pure syphilis now becomes adulterated with the SORA as well as psychosis. The simple disorder which has now become complicated, it becomes complex because now it is a complex of SORA plus syphilis plus psychosis. Condylomata lata is nothing but the flat warts which appears at the mucocutaneous junctions. They appears at the anal region, they appears around the genitals, sometimes they appears at the mouth. These are flat warts, appears at the mucocutaneous junction. A psychotic, purely psychotic expression. So disease which was found to be a simple in primary phase now becomes complicated. Now again with allopathy, they used to treat that with local means. So again mercurial preparation from the primary chancre. For maculopapular rash, some silver nitrate creams or some sulfur ointments they used to use. And the condylomata lata either removed surgically or either cauterized with the cautery. That was the treatment. So this treatment they used to do. So condylomata is removed by surgery or cautery. The maculopapular rash is removed by some local preparation. The primary chancre is removed with the help of mercurial preparation. And again, disease goes into the hidden phase. Now, for a longer period, patient doesn't have any symptoms, but disease is increasing internally without any manifestation called as tertiary syphilis or latent syphilis. See, this latent syphilis is the worst state because internally you are not observing that disease is increasing internally, but you don't have manifestation. And when it used to appear, then it appears as a quaternary syphilis. Quaternary syphilis is the last stage of the syphilis in the form of cardiosyphilis, producing cardiomyopathy, damaging the heart, leading towards the death of the human being. Or it happens to be, mm, it affects the nervous system, producing tabes dorsalis, producing paralysis, ultimately leading with the death of the human being. So syphilis disease right from the start to the end ends with the death of the human being. And what Hahnemann have considered, he got the common theme in all those patients, in many patients out of those not cured patients. In nearly about 1/8 cases were sexually transmitted. Out of them, in 60% of cases, he got one cause: suppressed primary syphilis, either in the past, either in the family history, leading to form new diseases, to which Hahnemann labeled by the name of syphilitic miasm. What he has given? He has given the same name of syphilis, same disease name, because it was the disease which used to end with the death of the human being. Same name was given by Hahnemann to his miasm. One interesting history is there. If you know, it's good, but if you don't know, this how this syphilis name came to this disease. There was one shepherd in 15th century whose name was Syphilius, and he was the first victim of this disorder. And his name was utilized for the disease, and syphilis becomes syphilis, and that is the name given to this disorder. And same name Hahnemann have given to his miasm. So he worked out very hard with this miasm. He understood that either in the family history of the patient there is a history of suppressed syphilis, or either in the past history of the patient there was a history of suppressed syphilis. And ultimately it broke open with the some new disorders. So disease was vanished from local site, it enters inside, producing any dangerous disorder, to which Hahnemann labeled by the syphilitic miasm. So that was the state. Now question is, if it is so, how Hahnemann worked out for it? What he has done, he worked out for the syphilis, understood syphilis, and he worked out for the materia medica. He went over whole course of materia medica and found he was searching for a remedy which covers whole data in this syphilis disease into the materia medica. And when he was searching for that, he got 3 remedies which covers the whole syphilitic miasm. First, he got the mercurius, Merxol. Second, he got the aurum metallicum. Third, he got the syphilinum. And because of which he found the answer for the syphilitic miasm. So whenever this suppressed history of syphilis, either in the past or family history of the patient was there, and patient came with some internal disorder, and when he was sure, he used to find it out what remedy suits out of these, and he used to give it. What has happened? After giving those remedies, the original primary symptoms of the primary syphilis used to come, and because of which the new disorder, internal disorder which was developed, used to vanish. And then he treated that with the help of homeopathy, and patient was cured. So he got one answer. He got one answer to this big question of chronic diseases, out of which in 1/8 of cases, out of which in 60%, he got one answer. The cause was syphilitic and treatment was antisyphilitic remedy. Antisyphilitic means not against syphilis. Antisyphilitic word, when you write in directly ANTISYPHILITIC without giving a dash in between, it means similar to syphilis. If you write dash, means opposite to syphilis. In homeopathy, it is not opposite to syphilis. It is same to syphilis. And those antisyphilitic remedies, the Merck, then the Heparsulf was another, Oromate, Hydrastis. There are many more thereafter Hahnemann found it out. And all those are wonderful remedies in this. So this is how he came to the first cause, and this is what he has mentioned about this, and he explained over there. So what he says over there, this was the fundamental cause of a large number of symptoms and a complicating factor in many diseases had been studied quite extensively. A careful review and collection of all known phenomena of syphilis was made and greatly enlarging its scope. So first miasm found by Hahnemann was the syphilitic miasm. First miasm was syphilitic. Then he got one theme. Yes, this is the cause. Then he has worked with the same theme. So he worked out with the same theme with the these sexually transmitted diseases. And he got one more thing. He got one history. Like syphilis, history of syphilis either in the past or family, he got one more. There was a history of suppressed gonorrhea either in the past or family history. And that he starts now. What he says? Gonorrhea, the constitutional disease, was but little known. But Hahnemann's keen mind had detected its relation to many civil consequences following suppression of primary discharge, the topic by local treatment. He had also observed the evils arising from the topical and mechanical treatment of anomalous venereal condition, variously known as psychosis, the pigwort disease, condylomata, Ficus maritzka, atritis, and warts. London Medical Dictionary, 1890. So, in the similar line, he found it out the cause was suppressed gonorrhea. During Hahnemannian time, no one was considering gonorrhea as a chronic disease. But Hahnemann was very logical. He was brilliant. He said there are two varieties of gonorrhea. One is acute variety, another is chronic variety, which is constitutional. If acute gonorrhea happens to be there, it remains as an acute disease and disappears by its own, never produces any constitutional symptoms. But if the disease is chronic, then that chronic disease, right from the start, it is chronic. When you try to apply local treatment for the gonorrhea, for the chronic disease, it used to get suppressed and it enters inside, producing internal manifestation in the form of some rheumatism, in the form of asthma, in the form of pelvic inflammatory diseases, etc. And those secondary symptoms which appears to be there because of suppression of gonorrhea, Hahnemann labeled by the name of psychosis. Because there was one more feature comes along with gonorrhea, that is the pigworts. Pigworts means these are the cauliflower-like warts, appears at the genitals, and they are because of this gonorrheal virus. Gonorrheal virus was the terminology used at that time because no one was knowing the cause of gonorrhea. That's why the terminology was gonorrheal virus. Later it was found it is Neisseria gonorrhea. So what is the definition of gonorrhea? Gonorrhea is nothing but it is a yellowish mucopurulent discharge either from male urethra or female urethra caused because of Neisseria gonorrhea associated with pigworts around the genitals is gonorrhea. And if you treat that gonorrhea or pigworts by local means, it enters inside, produces internal disorder. Hahnemann labeled the name or utilized name for this miasm as a psychosis miasm or psychotic miasm. Because meaning of psychotic word is pigwort disease. And Hahnemann chose that name for his miasm. Again, he worked out with the materia medica, found what is close to this psychotic miasm, the manifestations of psychotic miasm. And again, he got three remedies, the king of antipsychotic. The first remedy he found was the Thuja occidentalis. The second he found was the medorinum. Third he found was the natrum sulfuricum. And those were the antipsychotic remedy. He worked with those remedies for those cases and he got very good results. So out of 1/8 of cases, 60% were syphilitic and only 40% was the psychotic. But out of whole cases, only 1/8 was sexually transmitted, and remaining 7/8 he never got the cause. He was working very hard to find it out the cause of it. So he worked out with that. What that is, we are going to learn tomorrow. But what about the psychotic miasm is explained over here. We'll learn next paragraph. Certain forms of condylomata were regarded by some authorities as due to syphilis, but it is not due to syphilis. Although it was known that the tumors were sometimes of venereal origin and accompanied by kind of gonorrheal discharge from the genital passage of the rectum, they were not recognized as manifestation of distinct disease, differing in many important respects from syphilis, nor were they necessarily connected with gonorrhea. Condylomata were not regarded as having any connection with large number of peculiar constitutional symptoms which are present in many cases. Hahnemann made extensive researches in the phenomena prescribing in such cases and came to the conclusion first that they constituted a definite and distinct infectious constitutional venereal disease, clearly distinguishable from syphilis on the one hand and the simple non-specific urethritis on the other. Second, that it was due to the presence of specific living microorganism. So Hahnemann was the first one to explain the importance of condylomata and how it is closely related with the gonorrhea. And this was a very important thing. So he found that even though the disease is syphilitic, this condylomata manifestation is psychotic. And it is in the secondary syphilis, it appears as a mixed miasmatic trait. So condylomata is manifestation of this gonorrheal disease. And then lastly, what he says, to this newly recognized pathological form, he applied the generic name psychosis, using the Greek term commonly employed in his day to designate the typical physical manifestation, the pigwort. So meaning of psychosis was pigwort, and that's why Hahnemann chose same name. His researches in the general subject of syphilis and gonorrhea, conducted by the inductive method in science, resulted in throwing a flood of light upon the previously obscure subjects, more clearly defining and greatly broadening not only the sphere of venereal diseases, but the scope of all subsequent research. He was thus the precursor by more than 50 years of Norgard, who called attention new to the importance of gonorrhea as a constitutional disease and demonstrated gonococcus as a specific proximate cause. So see how much he has studied the miasms and disorders. 50 years before the person who has explained to the world that gonorrhea is constitutional disease, chronic disease, Hahnemann explained it 50 years before. And Hahnemann explained that there are two varieties, acute and chronic. Modern medicine accepted it 50 years later when someone have said. See, this is the in fact inductive reasoning of Hahnemann led him to such big researches in the field, because of which he was able to reach to the causes of diseases, which was original pathology. So syphilis is original pathology, the psychosis is original pathology, and then the tissue changes happen. Tissue changes is the result of this pathology. And we unfortunately labels those name or those diseases as the diseases. They are the only manifestations, they are only the ultimates of the diseases. The original diseases are hidden at the dynamic level in the form of miasm, out of which today we have discussed two venereal miasms. One is syphilis, another is psychosis, and both of them are venereal in origin. When both of them suppressed, leads to some chronic pathologies, and those chronic pathologies are very difficult to cure once they enters inside. Without homeopathy, you cannot cure them. So he tried to explain this concept of pathology in relation to the miasm, which he called General Pathology of Homoeopathy. So today we have finished up to this Tomorrow we'll continue with the non-venereal diseases, that is psoriatic disorder. So that's all for today. If any query is there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, we'll finish. And today evening, we're going to learn big remedy, Natrum muriaticum, a very important remedy from Allen's keynotes, because it is a polycrest. In fact, I think it will take 3 or 4 lectures to learn, because it is a big remedy and very commonly useful remedy in our day-to-day practice. So that's all for today. Be there at 8 o'clock with the Natrum muriaticum. Thanks a lot.
Sir,
Huh?
sir, one minute. Sir, in case of psoriasis, it is syphilitic. It is syphilitic, na?
Tubercular. It is sorosyphilitic.
Then we have to start treatment with tubercular remedy or according to the symptoms only.
No, according to the symptoms, it's okay, but you have to take into consideration the miasm of the patient. Dominant miasm is sorosyphilitic, that is tubercular, but it is not always so. It varies from individual to individual. Occasionally, it might be psoric, occasionally, it might be syphilitic, occasionally, it might be psychotic, but dominating is always a sorosyphilitic. So, for every case, you have to find it out. For every case, you have to understand. Don't make fixed idea that every psoriasis is tubercular. No. You have to differentiate on the basis of symptomatology and understanding of that specific patient. Then it is possible. So, for one patient, you might require a tubercular remedy like arsiodide. But sometimes you might require even a purely syphilitic remedy also. Sometimes you might require just a superficial psoric miasm also. It varies. So you have to take into consideration that case, and accordingly you have to consider what miasm is lurking behind.
Okay, sir. Thank
you. Yeah. So thank you being there. We'll meet again at 8 o'clock with the Natrum muriaticum. Thanks a lot.